Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. My name is John and I have another album from my Iron Maiden series. Today we'll be talking about Brave New World, but before I begin, if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. So this is a very big album. It's like the return of Bruce Dickinson, and he left in 1993, and also the return of Adrian Smith, and he left in 1990. And also, a lot of alsos there. It's also the first recorded as 6 members because Janick Gers replaced Adrian Smith in 1990, and he ended up staying in the band, kind of similar to what Halloween did this year. And the title is called Brave New World, and you probably recognize the name from the Aldous Huxley novel. The artwork is pretty cool. It's done by 2 artists. They combined the upper half, the top was done by Derek Riggs, and he's the man behind Eddie. And the bottom was done by a digital artist, and his name is Steve Stone. The album has 2 singles called The Wicker Man and Out of the Silent Planet. So we'll be talking about them in a minute. There were a few songs such as Nomad, Dream of Mirrors, and Mercenary that were originally written for their previous album called Virtual 11. That was that album with Blaze Bayley, and also the album that I will be reviewing after this one, hopefully tomorrow. The album was recorded live in the studio. It does have a live feel, when you listen to the album. A few of the songs bring back that classic Iron Maiden sound, and a few of the others are starting to introduce this more progressive modern sound that are more reminiscent of all those albums that I have been reviewing in the past 2 weeks, like Book of Souls and a few others. This is a great album. You kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You get somebody the older sound, someone the newer sound, so it is pretty cool. The album starts off with The Wicker Man, and this is the lead single, and this one has that classic heavy metal sound. Now I do remember seeing a video about the most recycled riff in heavy metal, and this was one of the songs mentioned, but the opening riff is very reminiscent of a few other songs from Judas Priest and the band Riot, from the early 80s. It's a really cool riff. I mean, they just wanted to capture that early 80s metal sound, and it's their way of saying, hey everybody, the band is back, check us out. It's an awesome song, super catchy, great chorus. Has those whoa, whoa, whoa. Those lyrics, how most Maiden songs do have those in them. But it's a really great song. This was one of my favorites, and it's a great opener. Next is Ghost of the Navigator. This one's written by Janick Gers, Bruce Dickinson, and Steve Harris. This one starts to introduce more of that modern Iron Maiden sound. Has that neoclassical intro. The clean guitar that goes into the more heavier sound. When the song kicks in, it does have that classic sound with a heavy gallop in the guitars. The song also has a progressive metal sound with different tempo changes, and it's a pretty long song. It's 7 minutes long, but it's a really good one. Next is the title track, Brave New World. This was written by Dave Murray, Steve Harris, and Bruce Dickinson. This is another 6 minute and 18 second song. Starts out with some clean guitars, has some neoclassical riffs, and it's very melodic. It does start to pick up the pace as it goes along, and there are plenty of heavy riffs and melodic leads. Next is Blood Brothers. This was written by Steve Harris, and you can usually tell the Steve Harris songs because it has the bass guitar intro, the melodic lead guitar melody. Now in this song we start to hear more of that modern Iron Maiden sound. This one has more of an epic feel. They start introducing more keyboards in the background. These keyboards do create an atmosphere. There are lots of different parts of the song. There's lots of melody. It is a catchy song. The chorus is very memorable, and it's probably my favorite song on the album. Next is The Mercenaries. It's a short song, under 5 minutes. It's a hard rocker, a little more reminiscent of their earlier stuff from the 80s, and has a fast beat. Like I said, it was intended for Virtual 11, so you probably could imagine Blaze singing this one. It does have lots of tempo changes after the first guitar solo, and that gives it a kind of progressive metal feel, but this is mostly straightforward Iron Maiden. Next is Dream of Mirrors, and this is the longest song at 9 minutes and 22 seconds. Kind of starts with a heavy intro, has Bruce singing with some guitar riffs. Does go into this melodic section. Almost reminds me of the stuff from the late 80s. But this song is more reminiscent of that new progressive style as well. And this is a particular style that we'll be developing over the next few albums. It's a very melodic song, has a memorable chorus. At about the 6 minute mark, the song does go start to get into heavy territory, like that classic Iron Maiden sound and that classic gallop. There's a lot of that like gallop on this album. So next is Fallen Angel. And I recently did a collaboration video with Josh Kish, and we did our top 10 Maiden songs. I will be linking that at the end. And he chose this song, but for some reason, like when he said it, I didn't like recognize it, like the song didn't really stand out. And when I listened to it, like upon researching this album, it's a really good song, but it's really heavy too. Has these really like thick guitar sounds, and it's one of those songs reminds me of that like early 80s style, you know, when they were like a straightforward metal band, you know. It's also the shortest song in the album, 4 minutes long, and it's just one of those songs that gets right to the point. Next is Nomad, another 9-minute song. Has a heavy intro, some pretty cool riffs. Some different type of sounding riffs. They don't really sound like anything we've heard before. Almost like in progressive metal, that type of sound in the riff. Bruce's vocals are a little more aggressive in this one. The tone is a little more darker, and after about like 4.5 minutes, like the bass section comes in, the slow atmospheric melodic part comes in, and I really like the next part where like the electric guitars come in and then really goes into this really great riff. So I like this one. Next is Out of the Silent Planet. This one's pretty cool. Pretty cool, a progressive riff in the intro. Starts out slow, and you know, at first you think, oh, this is going to be a ballad, but no, it comes back hard, and has some pretty cool power chords. You know, nice rhythm to it, and the song does have that classic Iron Maiden sound with the galloping guitars. The final song is called The Thin Line Between Love and Hate. This is one of those like epic closers. It's 8.5 minutes long. Starts out with a twin guitar lead and opening riff, followed by like a traditional heavy metal riff. And the song is very complex, has lots of time signature changes, heavy riffs, melodic bass parts, and there's a lot going on here. There are some slower parts that are about like 6 minutes, but it does like build back up into like the heavy riffs. So in conclusion, I think this is a good starter album for somebody who's like not a big fan of Iron Maiden and wants to like introduce themselves to like their like later stuff. The albums are more straightforward. The songs are not as complex as the one like from the upcoming albums. A lot more like melody, a lot more melodic parts. Like the songs are a little catchy, have memorable choruses. I do like this one a lot. I'm not really sure where I would rank it. Maybe below A Matter of Life and Death. I don't know. When I do my ranking, I'll figure it out. But that's it. Coming up this week, I have some pretty cool stuff. Tomorrow, more Iron Maiden. I'll be doing Virtual 11. I have an anniversary on Wednesday, a Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet, 35th anniversary. Thursday, I will be ranking the albums by sticks as a follow-up to the video I did with Brian. And coming this weekend, there's a lot of heavy metal coming up, like Between the Buried and Me and Death Haven. And I'll listen to them and then I'll determine whether or not I review them. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Here's some other videos right over there. See you in the next one.